give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He's Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, happy Friday. Before we get into the games from last night and the games ahead tonight, an eventful afternoon. Well, actually, I don't know if eventful is the word. I thought it actually was quite the opposite. I thought it would be a little more eventful, but a big event, we should say, up in Toronto is management. And they spoke. Keith Pelly, Brendan Shanahan, Brad Treliving, and I didn't think there was anything really groundbreaking to take from it, except for the fact that they did acknowledge there could be a change to the core four in the team, and that means, that maybe these Mitch Marner trade rumors that we're hearing could come to fruition. Who knows? We're not going to get into speculating about that. But what was your reaction? Did you expect maybe a little something more emphatic, so to speak?
Before I get going, Jimmy, I want to apologize to the viewers and listeners. I've been traveling all day, and I didn't have a date with my razor, so I apologize in advance for not being clean-shaven. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because I don't like to show up here without being shaved, so I apologize. We
do have to say, though, you kind of get a freebie because it is the playoffs. Even though you're not a coach anymore.
I'm from the Lamorello School of Etiquette, so I apologize in advance.
And I am directly from the Pierre McGuire. I did shave, so here we go.
You are. So anyways, I just want to apologize in advance. Now, let's get to Toronto. A lot to take in. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing earth-shattering. It's interesting because they fire a coach, and they really like the coach. But they fired him anyways. So who's the scapegoat? It's obviously Sheldon Keefe. We don't know what players are going to move out. That's normal. You don't want to tip your hand. So I totally understand that part of it. I personally would have thought upper management, especially the ones that have had, well, one in particular had 10 years to prepare for this, would have had more of a reckoning in terms of the direction he wants a team to go. Mm-hmm. There was no direction. There was no long-term plan of sustainability. There was no, we're doing this, or we want this kind of player, we want to do that. I did hear that from Brad Treliving, though. Mm-hmm. I did. I heard that from Brad. And I think Keith Pelly performed admirably, which is what we both expected from Keith. But I would have expected more from a guy that's been there 10 years and has been part of one winning process in the playoffs in 10 years.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you nailed it right there. I wonder, Pierre, is he surprised to be sitting up there, given what you just said, his track record, 10 years, one playoff win in those 10 years. He's got to be like, wow, I'm still here. But I'm with you. Like when you are still here, Brendan, and what I think you need to just come out with more of a game plan, as you said. I know it's only a week old. I know that you still have a lot of things to take care of in the offseason, and I'm sure they're going to get to it in due time. But I'm with you. I just think that there could have been more he did say, I own it. I know, but I want to know that when he says, I own it, this is on me, blah, blah, blah. What's on you? What specifically is on you, Mr. Brendan Shanahan? I want to know, what do you think of the specific mistakes that you have made to get to this point, and how do you correct them? That's what I want to hear. I get that you're saying you're accountable and you're not blaming anyone, but in essence, you already did kind of blame someone. It was a coach because he's gone now. So I'm with you. I'm left wanting quite a bit more from that press conference. If I'm a Maple Leafs fan, I'll tell you that.
The only thing I'd ask is, if you own it, what's the punishment?
Yeah.
Usually if you do something that's not appropriate, there's a punishment. Mm-hmm. So you can't think that the way the team's been run has been appropriate for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So what's the punishment? There is none. Other people are going to be punished.
Oh, yeah.
We've already seen one.
Yeah.
We've already seen one, and there's probably going to be more. But anyways, all this press conference stuff means nothing. It comes down to what's going to be your plan going into the draft and what's going to be your plan going into free agency, and which one of those players or which players are you going to keep and which you're going to move. And to be fair, especially to Brad and to Keith, I don't expect them to share their plan publicly. I don't think they should have to.
Okay.
I think what we need to talk about is what type of team we want to be, what types of players we want to have, and how are we going to address what we perceive as maybe not one of our strengths right now. And I would say there's three of those. Who's going to be your goalie, even though I think they're probably heading towards Joseph Wall? How are you going to upgrade your defense? And what are you going to do for character players and depth players to support those star players that you have to win? So it's not really complicated. It's three things.
Yeah.
It's not 111, Jimmy. It's three. It's three.
I hear you. The one thing I would say about Pelly, and I agree with you, he was good. The only thing, and I want your opinion on this, Pierre, because I didn't know how to take it when he made a point of citing that Brendan Shanahan is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. That's as a player. What has he done in hockey management? And is it fair to use that to defend him, given that was as a player versus the position he's in now?
You know what Keith Pelly showed you today? When you're in a foxhole with him, he's going to protect you.
Okay.
So this is the start of how and why Keith is good. Keith is going to make sure that everybody that's involved is going to feel like they're part of it. Okay. And he's going to make sure that you're going to be insulated because he understands the spectrum of the job. He understands the spectrum of being part of the Leafs organization. And whether you're in basketball operations, football operations, soccer operations, or hockey operations in Toronto, I can assure you, you've never had a greater asset that will speak on your behalf than Keith Pelly. And I can speak to it from personal knowledge because I worked for him. He signed me. He's the one that said, we're putting this guy national and we're putting him in the Olympics. Whether you like me or hated me, it didn't matter. Keith believed in me.
Right.
And so I can tell you how he does his business, and it's really professional, really professional.
Okay, the final question on Toronto here, Pierre, and you would know this more than me or probably most of our listeners and viewers, is with Toronto being such an important franchise to this league, how much attention are the league headquarters and the powers that be in the NHL paying attention to today and going forward with that team?
You know what's really neat about the National Hockey League? What a good question, first of all, Jimmy. What's really neat about the NHL that I know, and I've known it for 34 years, is that every franchise is important. Witness how Commissioner Bettman dealt with Atlanta moving to Winnipeg and the type of ownership that he got for the Winnipeg Jets. Witness what Commissioner Bettman has done to try to support the franchise in Arizona for as long as he did. And when it wouldn't work because of building more than anything else, look at the owner that he found in Utah and the future of that franchise going forward. It's pretty darn good. I know everybody's going to take shots at Commissioner Bettman, but this is my point on this whole thing. Every franchise is important to him. Everyone. And some people will speculate. He cares more about Toronto. He cares more about Vancouver. He cares more about New York. Here's the people that need to worry about those franchises. The TV networks. They're the ones that need to worry. Commissioner Bettman's already sold his stock of TV to TNT in the States, to ESPN, to Rogers, and Rogers has just decided to sublet their Monday night games to Amazon starting next fall. So he just needs to worry about every franchise, and he does a really good job of that. And Jimmy, I can tell you this from having been part of the board of governors meetings, just because you might be in Ottawa or just because you might be in, let's just say, Carolina, you all have an equal voice there in the board of governors. Everybody does. And they're all respected in the board of governors. Now, some speak louder than others. So I'm talking about board members. That's okay. Some don't speak as loud, but they carry a big stick, Jimmy.
Yes.
You know, so all I'm going to say, and you raised it, and the way you raised it was really well done. But he cared, and this is for the fans out there that can't stand him. I'm going to tell you right now, he cares about every franchise in this league equally. He does. People can debate me all they want. I've seen it. He does.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of fans that may dislike Bettman too, Pierre, sometimes forget that he's working technically for every franchise. He's working for those owners. He's working for the board of governors. And it's not necessarily always him. His job is to keep them happy and grow the league. And sometimes I think, not sometimes, a lot of times, I do think he takes a lot of bullets that shouldn't always be directed at him. And look, I get it. I get the frustration from the fans. I get the stuff that people think or what they see. But just from knowing you and knowing other people in the league, I've learned along the way how many bullets he takes. And I think he deserves credit for that.
He does. Well said. And he's a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame and an honored member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. He justifiably should be. And I know, again, there'll be people out there that are going to want to throw stuff at me. That's fine. Do it. It doesn't matter. I know the facts. And he's done a lot for this league. He's done a lot for non-traditional hockey markets. And that's led to the growth of the game. Not just on the men's side, Jimmy. On the women's side.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
So I think, again, we're kind of getting away from it, but for the Leafs situation, it's important because their fans matter, just like every other. You've heard me say it to you on and off the air.
Yes.
Toronto's a big fan base, obviously, a huge TV market in Canada and huge across Canada. But their fans are great. Are they better than the fans in Buffalo?
No.
The fans in Buffalo matter just as much as the guys in Toronto.
Yeah.
So, Buffalo hadn't played a playoff game in, 14 years? Something like that, 14 years. So, they matter too.
Yeah. By the way, it'd be great when they finally make it and maybe get that rivalry with Toronto going again there. That would be
funny about that? People forget this because it shows you how quick we process stuff. For the longest time when I was in the league, Toronto and Detroit weren't in the East.
That's right.
They were in the West.
I know.
So while Buffalo and Toronto mattered as a rivalry,
regionally,
they didn't play. It was only regional.
Right. But ever since they have been in the same division, Pierre, they haven't had the chance to get it going because Buffalo's not making it.
One team had been so good.
Yeah. So you mentioned smaller market teams, Pierre, and growing the game there. Well, one of those markets right now that's got to just be sitting, shaking their head is Carolina after what we saw last night. Look, I thought it was a much better game than we saw by them in the first two games. I mean, they got 45 shots on net. I thought that they played better. There's still some areas where I thought discipline was lacking. Luckily the Rangers weren't able to convert on any of their 4 power plays. But overall, I thought it was a better game. But the Rangers find a way to win. And even that makes it so much more frustrating, Pierre, is what it's like when your team ties a game with hardly any time left, 18-24 into the third period. Svechnikov scores that goal to tie it. And then only 1:43 into overtime, Panarin ends it on an amazing tip in front. Great play by Trocheck as well. Just your thoughts on that. And I mean, is there any hope that they can get back into this series?
Well, first of all, they had a better start last night, as you said, Jimmy, correctly. They've lost 5 straight overtime games in the playoffs. 5 straight. So that's for all the analytics people out there. Because on the analytics boards, that they're better than the Rangers almost on everything.
Yeah.
They've lost 5 straight overtime games in the playoffs, just so we're clear. So that's number one. Number two, Panarin is special. He's really, but the guy that has gone to another level, and I've talked to so many people. I was sitting in the car 6 hours. You get to talk to a lot of people. Vinny Trocheck.
Yeah.
Vinny's been outstanding, and it's kind of a neat story because I think there were people in Carolina that really wanted to keep him.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to take any gratuitous cheap shots because I don't think it's appropriate.
No.
But there were other people there that wanted to sign a player as a restricted free agent from Montreal
Mhm.
because they thought he would have better numbers than
Mhm.
Vinny Trocheck. So one guy left and one guy came. And I think if you did the tail of the tape now, you'd have to say that the Kotkaniemi people were wrong and the Trocheck people were right.
Mhm.
And the beneficiary of all this is the New York Rangers.
Yep. And
And he deserves a lot of credit. He's been great.
And another guy that's been great, Pierre, and continues. You talk about, proving people wrong. Is Lafreniere. I mean, this kid, and he's not just playing well. He's playing clutch.
He's playing big, man. Jimmy, he's a big guy and he's playing big. He must want to play against.
He looks like a guy that's been there for 10 years, not a few years. I mean,
he's 22 years old.
Yeah.
He's going to be. Can you imagine in 3 years what he's going to be like? So one of the things we're seeing, and I remember when he got drafted, Chris Kreider coming out of Andover before he went to Boston College. Everybody said, big guy, fast guy, maybe not that tough. That was wrong. Maybe not that skilled. That might be wrong. And hockey sense really lacking. The Rangers made a mistake drafting him in the first round. I remember people saying this. And I was like, well, I don't know. I went and watched him play a few times, and he's big, he's fast, he's really strong. He can shoot the puck. I think there's something in there. You just got to work with it. Yeah. I think what's happened for a lot of these evaluators, and I could be really wrong on this, and if I am, I will apologize. I think a lot of the evaluators don't put into the equation, can he be coached? And if he can be coached, how much better can he be?
Coachability.
And I've talked to you about it off the air a lot, and he's a perfect example. Look at all the coaches he's had. He's had John Tortorella.
Mm-hmm.
He's had Alain Vigneault. He's had Gerard Gallant. And now, obviously, he's got, Peter Laviolette and his staff. He's been there a long time.
Yeah.
Been a good player.
He really has.
A really good player. How about the shorthanded goal last night? He's 225 pounds. He's big, man.
I know.
Fast? He was over 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I think the Rangers, you asked me, can Carolina come back? I think it's going to be really tough.
Yeah. I could see maybe going 5, maybe 5.
Jimmy, I've talked to you about this, and this is a Bowmanism, and I don't like to bore people with it, but when you learn so much from somebody that's such a legend, you got to pass it forward.
Of course.
And he always talked about the inevitability factor in a series. Inevitably, one team knows they're going to win, and inevitably, one team knows they're going to lose. And it comes at a different time in a series. I think in this series, well, I'll give you an example. Last round, Vegas, Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I firmly believe after Vegas lost Game 4 back-to-back on home ice, I firmly believe they thought inevitably they would lose. Just watching, because they went back to Dallas, and they lost.
Yeah.
So they lost 3 in a row.
Yep.
So we knew they might go back and win one, but then they go back to Dallas and probably not going to win. And they didn't.
Yeah.
It's just so inevitably, I believe players know in their heart of hearts who's going to win or lose. And I think Carolina knows they've thrown their best shot at New York, and they just can't find a way with consistency to beat Shesterkin. They can't.
I know. There's sometimes, and I think you're absolutely right, Pierre, and not just in hockey, but I think in any playoff that has a best of 7 series, you'll kind of know, you can just sense in a team that they're not out of it or they're out of it. Like, it's just something about it. I don't know how to pinpoint it in words, but you get what I'm saying, right? And I hate to say it for Carolina right now. I just don't have that feeling for them right now. That's not to say that they're not a good team. It happens. They ran into a wagon right now. I mean, the New York Rangers are legit a wagon rolling along. And
before you go any further, I want to ask you a question. what's the one thing about the Rangers besides the goalie and the penalty kill that's really stood out? Because those two things have stood out. Is there one other thing in your eyes that's really stood out?
Yeah, their depth and the way they're coming at them in waves, whether that's at the forward position or defense. I just feel like it's almost every shift out there. They're wearing down the Hurricanes. They're beating them up a little, not like, fist fights, but they're wearing them down. And I feel like the Hurricanes are coming back to the bench, grasping for air. And then all of a sudden you got another dose of it coming at you with the next line. So I just feel like they've completely worn them down, both physically and mentally.
So I'm kind of close to where you are.
Okay.
My thing is, this is the most physical Ranger team, top to bottom, that I've seen in my lifetime. And that includes their Stanley Cup winning team, coached by a good friend of mine, Mike Keenan. That team was physical. They had a lot of, like, Stefan Matteau, Brian Noonan. They had, some guys that could really Larmer. They had guys that were way under the radar when it came to physicality. They really did. Bukaboom was a nasty piece of business when he played. He really was. He and Leach were a tremendous partnership together. People forget about Zubov, and Zubov was a really skilled guy, but he was a thick-bodied player. He could go through you. This is as physical as any Ranger team I've seen in my professional life.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think has caught some people, including me, I think, by surprise. I don't think Carolina thought it was going to be this mean-spirited.
Yeah.
I thought, like any playoff series would be hard-hitting. But I didn't think it'd be this kind of vitriol in the series. And New York stood up to it and dominated it pretty much.
And Pierre, isn't that kind of, when you think about the Rangers over the last 3 to 4 years, that's sort of been the one thing that's been missing. They've never really lacked skill. They've had a ton of skill. Mm-hmm. And, every year it seems like, okay, this is the year they're going to push through. This is the year that skill is going to push through. But they didn't have what you said there, the physicality.
True. That thing in game 2, when Jacob Trouba almost decapitated Marty Necas, I'll tell you one thing right now. For the Ranger players, they're like, oh, man, thank God this guy's on our team. And if you're Carolina, you're going, when's he coming next?
Exactly.
That stuff, people can say act tough and say to me, we didn't pay attention, didn't matter. Oh, yes, it did.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it did.
It does.
Imagine if he would have hit him.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have played another playoff game. I think he would have been suspended for the rest of the playoffs because he would have done something. That would have been really bad.
It would have been in rough shape.
But just a picture's worth 1,000 words. And that picture of him flying through the air, like the way he did, you don't think the Carolina guys saw that in the newspaper?
Oh, yeah.
He saw it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Pierre, let's go to the other game from last night. And look, they found their game, the Dallas Stars. They found their game, a 5-3 win over the Colorado Avalanche. I think, we've touched on this before, but I'll say it again. I thought game 1 went as I expected, and it was very much like game 1, Panthers Bruins, a team riding momentum. And there was question was, will it last through the whole game 1 or will it die down? It died down a little earlier than it did for the Bruins in their game 1. And of course, Colorado pulled off the comeback and came away with the win. But this game, I thought a much better team. Dallas, they really showed their depth there. And look, I think this series, Pierre, has 7 games written all over it. That's the feel I get.
I think you're right. Jay, the one thing here, I'm going to pick something from both teams. I thought Dallas really took advantage of their opportunities, and they stabilized the game because of it. Yep. And I thought Colorado in the second period in particular, you can't put 2 pucks out of play and take a delay game penalty. You can't have too many men on the ice twice. You can't lose almost 8 minutes. Well, it was 8 minutes. You can't lose 8 minutes of 5-on-5 play because of self-inflicted wounds. You can't do that in a playoff game. So they need to fix that. And I got to think they're internally, whether it's Nathan or Jared Bednar, whomever, they'll get internally Josh Manson. They'll get that fixed. They'll get that fixed. But if they don't, Dallas is in a good spot.
Yeah,
they're a good team, and they took advantage of their opportunity last night. It's 1-1. I think you made the best point of all 7 games.
Yep.
7 games.
It's a good series. The other thing too, I want to bring up here, a specific player that stood out to me, and obviously he stood out on the score sheet. A goal and 3 assists for Rupe Hintz. That's a guy I think we've all been
He was
waiting
jumping last night.
Yeah.
So, Jimmy, I thought, and I said this on our good friend Mitch Melnick show.
I heard you. Yep.
I don't know if you agree with me or not. And he did not look like he was the same player. So
No.
I'm thinking in the playoffs, there's something wrong. And I said on Mitch's show, wouldn't surprise me if there's a report that he's injured. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this guy play so many games live.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing is his size is really impressive. But his skating, it's like Kreider. When you see them and how fast they are, you're like, whoa, how do you stop that? Well, I didn't see that through the first round of the playoffs. I don't think you saw it either in the first round, and you didn't see it in game one. Like, I didn't think he was very good in game one, but last night he came to play. He's important. It's a great point by you. Really great point.
And I think Pierre too, it wasn't necessarily that speed. It was there, but not to his capability. He still got another level in my eyes. But I think it's, whether it's the trainers or the coaches or veteran players that went to him and said, let's just say, we don't know if he's hurt. I'm just saying if he is, they said, look, there's other ways you can work around this probably. And you have enough skill that you can compensate for what you might be missing because of the injuries. And he did that. Good job on him adapting to that. And Pierre, I'll say the other thing too. We talk about laying out hits that make the other team think. I think it was very borderline. Some people have an opinion on it. Other people think the other way on the hit on Taves. But the one thing you can't argue is that it sent a message. And I thought they were a much more physical team last night in Dallas.
You got it. I feel bad for Devon Taves. He got whacked.
I do too.
But it's part of the game.
It is.
And I personally didn't think it was a penalty.
No, I think they made the right. When I first saw it, I thought it hit head first. I thought that was the first principal point of contact. But then you watch it more and you're like, all right, they made the right call. And by the way, Pierre, I love that they're doing this now. I don't think we've talked about that enough, that they review penalties like that in majors, because we've seen a lot of times where they maybe had it wrong and they correct themselves. And I love that. I think that's a great, we haven't always had that in this game. And I love that it's a big part of the game now.
Colin Campbell, Mike Murphy, really good hockey men. They're part of that. Stephen Walcom, he's part of it. It all comes under the auspices of Bill Dale and Gary Bettman. Yep. They have to agree to get this done, and they have. And the referees, I think, have been great. Now that you brought it up, I just want to say one thing about the officials.
Yes.
You know how much I respect them and like them. And I think some of them have had really good series through the first round and a half, and some guys have been particularly good. That's just that's human nature. You decide what you like and what you don't like. This is where I'm having a problem. Fans in particular. And we can't have this guy because he hates our team. Or we can't have that guy because he hates our team. So I'm just saying this. I don't know if those guys hate your team or not, but this is what you need to know. It's really important for all these guys to keep working so they get evaluated every game. And if they don't make the scale that the league creates to move on to the next round or to another game or a bigger game, they're out. They're out. So I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, there might be a guy that's got serious animus against Team A, but he gets the assignment to referee Team A versus Team B. He is not going to fix it for Team B because he wants to move on. And that's the catch in all of this, that the fans need to understand. If you want to move on as a referee, series to series and bigger game to bigger game, you got to be rated well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Bad job officiating, you're not moving on.
So it's funny you bring that up. The other day on Twitter, so I had mentioned who the referees were, and a Panthers fan, she retweeted me, and when it's called quote tweet, they write something above it. And she said, oh, great, Rooney, a guy from Boston, is ref in the game. How is that fair? You don't think he's going to favor Boston? and Pierre, what was so ironic about it, right, is that Bruins fans can't stand Chris Rooney because they feel, and maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but they feel like because he's from Boston, when he's doing a Bruins game, he goes out of his way to be as objective as he can. And maybe sometimes they don't get the calls they need because he doesn't want to be viewed as being a Boston guy. So I said, this poor guy, both sides of the fence are hating him right now. And I said, well, at least it's, mutual. But yeah, you got to understand that, for our listeners out there, I mean, these guys are doing their best out there. And, when people try to say, oh, they got it in for us or it was fixed, like, do you know how hard it would be to fix a hockey game?
It would be really hard.
Like, think about that. This isn't baseball. Really yeah. Like, really, think about it. It's too fast. No,
it'd be really hard. Here's what I would say. One of the best guests we've had on the show, and we've had a lot of really good guests, was Dave Jackson. Yeah. Dave Jackson was on, and he did a really good job.
Yeah.
Thought he was outstanding.
Great.
And so now I was in Montreal, obviously the last little while, the last 2 weeks. I was actually north of Montreal, but took my mother out for an early Mother's Day dinner last night in Montreal. And I had a bunch of people come up and ask me questions. And, the one thing they ask is, how do you think the officiating's been? So that's why I just brought that up. And I said, well, one of the things that's really good if you get a chance to watch it is when Dave Jackson's on, because he's part of the ESPN show, I think. Just listen to what he says about the rules and the interpretation. And I'm going to say 9.5 times out of 10, he is spot on, man. He is spot on. Yeah. So I think there's a professionalism in their part of the business talking about the officials that is sacrosanct. It's fantastic. Yeah. And I understand people get mad at it, but they're really more right than they are ever wrong. They really are.
Yep. I hear you. All right. Well, Pierre, good segue into refs and maybe how they handle things. We had an interesting game too, as we know. A lot of shenanigans went down in the third period of the 6-1 Bruins game. First off, just quickly before I get into what happened today at the game day skates for the Bruins and Panthers, because there was some interesting, funny stuff. Did you think the refs handled that one the right way? Because part of me thought I get what they were trying to do when they sent Cousins and Maroon to the room, and they're just trying to get ahead of it and not let this thing get out of control. I get it. So I respect their intentions, but I do think it might have backfired a bit. I feel like maybe it seemed to me like it heated up even more after those guys left. And then we saw 2 more ejections after that.
Yeah, fair to think that way. Here's what I would say.
But I do respect the intention. So and
I understand what you're saying. I think that's good that you said that. Here's how I would say it came out. They wanted to control Cousins and Maroon because those guys had started that in game 1. Mm-hmm. And so the league scouts the games too. And they say, here's a potential hot spot. Here's a potential hot spot. Here's a potential hot spot. So I think they were saying, okay, you two guys, you're not going to be mayhem makers tonight. You're done. Go take a rest. You get the hot water early in the shower. The problem, and the referees can't be watching what the guys are saying from bench to bench. They can't. They got to focus on what's on the ice. The problem was TV caught Tkachuk, and they also caught Monty talking. Mm-hmm. Now, it wasn't Tkachuk speaking to Monty, and it wasn't Monty speaking to Tkachuk. It was Monty speaking to Pasternak, and it was Tkachuk speaking to Pasternak.
Yep.
So TV caught that on the Canadian side and on the U.S. side. TV caught both. Mm-hmm. So the referees don't see that. That's a little excessive. So then, obviously, Tkachuk goes on the ice. Monty puts his guy on the ice. And then you get that.
Yeah.
Then you get that.
So fast forward to this morning. And, oh, man, I'm an idiot. I should have forwarded the sound to our production crew. I apologize. I've just been writing and going around like a madman all day.
You're in the playoffs right now. You just enjoy what you're doing. You don't have to apologize for
I'll just tell you. I'll give you. So I got a story on it. It's up on Boston Hockey Now. I asked Maroon about what happened there, and he said that he was not given an explanation about why he was given that misconduct, or why Cousins was. He said, I was just
he knows. Don't worry. He knows.
I'm sure he knows, but he says, I was just confused, but I'm moving on. But then I said to him, now he says he's moving on. But then the next question I asked was, and I was very pointed, I'd say, do you think that their actions after you were knocked out of the game, do you think they, what's the word I use, accelerated a bit with you out of the game? And he says, I'll give you the quote right now. He says, well, I think guys should be pissed off for sure. That's what I'll tell you. That's not the way we want to play. And then obviously you saw what happened with that. So we need to come out ready to play. And then later on, he said, look, I don't know. I don't know if me being out of there had anything to do with it. You can't really think about that. But for me, I know what happened. You just got to focus on the game. You can't be going out there and taking stupid penalties. There are guys who are willing and there are guys who are not. And unfortunately for me, there's no one over there right now. So I just got to play smart between the whistles. I don't want to put my team on the penalty kill.
That's smart. So that's a guy that's been
There was a little veiled shot at Kachuk, I think. But
he's been to 3 Stanley Cup final, and he's won 2 of them.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm wrong. He's been to 4 Stanley Cup final, and he's won 3 of them. I apologize. Sorry about that, Patrick. So yeah, he's won 3 cups, and he's been 4 times to the final. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's real good. So he understands all this stuff. And that, to me, that's a great soundbite, and congratulations to you for getting that. That's really good. I don't think it accelerated it. I think the Pasternak stuff and the Kachuk stuff was going to take on a life of its own, just because there was not a lot of people on you were watching it. Not a lot of people on the bench. Florida wants to plant a seed of doubt. They're going to talk a lot. They were undermanned because they didn't have Bennett. And the one thing that stood out to me after all this stuff, and I think this is when the mayhem really started. After Brandon Montour scored, he stood in the crease. He had already pushed Marchand down. And rather than go and turn and celebrate to his teammates, all he did was chastise Marchand. He did the Ryan Callahan tongue stuff.
The lick.
Yeah.
Ironically, with Callahan doing the game, actually.
I heard about that. That's because I was watching it on Canadian TV, but I heard about that. This has been festering.
Pierre, look.
You hear me all the time on Melnick. 2 months ago, I told you Florida's in playoff mode.
Yes.
And they're turning every game into a street fight. You heard me say it, and we talked about it.
Yep. It was right after the Bruins beat them in overtime. I remember in March.
Yeah.
I remember that.
That's their MO.
Yep.
And look at now they're going to be even more squirrely. Guess why? They're getting Sammy Bennett back.
Yep.
And he's the leader of the pack. And I don't mean that with any disrespect. I still can't believe he's not in Calgary. What was the rush?
Their Kenny Linsman.
What's that?
He is their Kenny Linsman. That's what he is.
Except he's 215 pounds and freaking ripped. Kenny wasn't that big.
Yeah.
But look, tonight I think really important for the Bruins. Really important to have a good start.
And keep
really important for Florida to stay out of the box.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get carried away. I don't think they're going to get free passes tonight because I'd be willing to bet whomever the series manager has told both coaches shenanigans lead to penalties. Penalties lead to power plays. Power plays lead to lost momentum for one team and tons of momentum for the other. So you guys decide how you want to play it.
That has been done, according to Darren Drager. Actually, Pierre, he said that they have been warned that their series is now under heavy scrutiny.
Well, really? Nice. I worked with Darren for a long time, and that's great that he reported that. Thanks for the news flash.
Yeah. should we flash the Captain Obvious guy from the hotel commercial? But the other thing, good segue. And by the way, we don't script this, so Pierre had no idea this was the next thing I wanted to bring up. You brought up Montour and Marchand there. somebody asked him about the taunt, the licking taunt. And he said laughing, yeah, I got a lot of texts after that with a licking emoji and whatnot. But, you know, when Marchand does those things, you have to kind of take the joke. And that's something that he has to take for the rest of his career. So there's, you know, veiled shots being thrown back and forth.
Yeah.
But I think they know, like we just said, Pierre, don't mess around. It's not worth it. You can't, it's the playoffs. Every little inch, every little penalty, everything is too crucial to get caught up in that stuff. And hey, one team might, and it's going to benefit the other team greatly if it happens.
You know, Brandon Montour, forget all that other stuff. He's had a heck of a playoff and a phenomenal run in Florida. And Paul Maurice and Sylvain Lefebvre that run the defense there, they deserve a lot of credit. This guy's really become a real good player. You know who I wish I was for one day?
His agent?
Matt Cater. Our friend Matt Cater is his agent.
Yep.
Because it's going to be a heck of a Christmas at the Cater house this year. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, man. They are going to hit the mother load on that kid's contract. I got to think you're looking $7 to almost $8 million a year.
Yep.
When he was coming out of your alma mater, there was no possible way he was thinking anything like those numbers.
No.
No chance coming out of UMass Amherst. No chance. And now you see him, if you're Matt Cater, you're like, Merry Christmas, Brandon. Merry Christmas.
And you know what, Pierre? I mean, he really picked that. You remember that series against Boston last year. You could see, hey, whoa, this kid's got something. And then it kept getting better throughout the playoff, and he's continued right through this year.
And that's why I talk about the coaches, Jimmy. It's hard to make guys better in the NHL. It's hard to make. And so that's when Maurice deserves credit on that, and Sylvain Lefebvre deserves a lot of credit on that.
Well, speaking of coaching, Pierre, I know one of your favorites is going to be in action tonight, and Rick talking with the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. I haven't seen, I checked as an hour, if they've ruled Draisaitl out or not, Pierre. He was not at the game day skate.
Draisaitl? I don't know. I don't know whether he's playing or not. Yeah, I don't know if he's playing or not. I apologize. Okay. But
that's a huge loss. He's out. That's gigantic.
Well, the number one thing it does, it affects the power play there.
Right.
Now, Vancouver only took one penalty in the game, in game one. So you'd see what I'm talking about. Rick knows they got to play physical, but they can't cross the line.
Yep.
And Rick, believe it or not, there were times in his career where Rick was unbelievably physical, and he never crossed the line. And a lot of people say, oh, he's vicious. No, he played it straight. And I think he's found a way to get that through his players. Adam Foote was the same. He's on that staff. He was the same. So, no, hey, you know the one guy we haven't talked about enough in Vancouver? Ian Clark.
Ooh,
the goalie coach. We haven't talked about Ian enough.
I agree.
Remember before the playoffs started, we talked about it because Patrick Demko got hurt and, and Casey DeSmith came in. We talked about how their goalies have gotten better. But Ian deserves credit here. That was supposed to be the end of them, especially in the Nashville series, and didn't happen. In fact, goaltending was good for them. So,
yep. What are they going to do in this game, though, Pierre? Because Edmonton's going to want to even it up. They're going to come flying out of the gate. I mean, I look at it. Do a lot of what you did before. You mentioned the discipline they showed. That's going to be key, obviously, and just be there for your goalie. That's it. I mean, I think that you just keep doing what you're doing. I like the plan they had in game one. I wouldn't change much.
No, I wouldn't change much either. The one thing I would say that's really important for them, talking about Vancouver, don't get overheated in the moment. Because I think that has the potential to happen tonight. Yeah. Because the city's going crazy. Obviously, they haven't had win in there in a long time. And I think Edmonton – they're kind of a calm group. Jeff Jackson's done a nice job since he's gone in there as president of hockey operation. I guess that's his title. Kenny Holland's not going to be intimidated by this moment. He's been through everything, winning all the cups and being part of Olympic gold medal winning team. He's not going to be. So I think Edmonton's side will be kind of calm, cool, and collected. And I think the players for Vancouver, just because it's on home ice, don't get overheated in the moment. Just keep it chill.
All right. Well, let's open it up. But before we do, let's go to our sponsors, Seabed here. You got 2 great games to take some action on there. I'll tell you, I'm feeling a JT Miller goal tonight. That's my You can thank me later with, buy me a bottle of wine if I ever meet you. But first, make that bet over at Seabet, where you can get refunded up to 300 Canadian with your first bet when you use the code word SICK. That's SICK, like our song, SICK, to get $300 in Canadian back on your first bet, win or lose. Go over there right now. Check out the props. Check out the game action they got going on and all sorts of stuff, not just hockey. They've got every sport over there, so go enjoy it. And, of course, our other sponsor is TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. And Pierre, I think when I am up in Montreal, and if you're there at the same time this summer, we gotta hang out with our friend Michael Maisley.
I will first of all, I will guarantee you that I will be there with you, number one. Number two, I don't think we put this out there yet, but we're really grateful that folks at TCS have already committed for next season.
Yes.
And we're really, really grateful for that. And I know they have a plan. We have a plan, and we can't thank them enough for helping grow our plan. So thanks to the folks at Seabed as well. Really appreciate the support. Really appreciate it.
Let's open it up here on a Friday afternoon, and we're going to do rapid fire because I got to catch the train. So let's go. Alex Evanovsky, if you're playing a team that is head and shoulder a better skating team than you like, Colorado or Edmonton, what's the best way to take their speed out of the game? Hold on to pucks in the ozone? ?
Win faceoffs, dominate the cycle game, stay 5-on-5, and make sure you gap up in the neutral zone. It's not complicated. And it's not that hard to do, but those are important intangibles of how to take speed out of a game. And then the final one you might not like because it's a little draconian. Pulverize fast players. Mm-hmm. If they know they're going to get whacked, make sure they know there's going to be a toll to pay. And it's going to be more expensive as the game goes along. That's what you got to make sure.
Kind of like the Mass Pike. All right, next question. John Smith, does Rod Brindamore become a free agent coach if Carolina gets swept, or is he under contract until further into the summer like the players?
Well, his contract's over probably – what's that?
And so, they're asking, does it go to July 1st, or does it end right when the season's over? Yeah,
everybody's got a different expiry date on their contracts. Usually, like I can tell you when I was coaching, I took less money on a monthly payout so that I got paid through the summer. Some guys just wanted to get paid over a 10-month period and have an excessive amount of money in their contracts. So everybody's different. So I will tell you that right now. Do I think Rod's going to be leaving there? No, I don't. I think even if they get swept, I don't think Rod's going anywhere. I think Rod will stay there. We talked about this on the eye test a while ago. I'd be very, very surprised if Rod left there.
I almost think it makes him want to stay even more because he's the type that's going to want to answer for that. And
can I just say one thing, what you're saying, Jimmy?
Yeah.
My concern for them, and I know, look, they've Jackson Blake. I know they got Bradley Nadeau. They've got some good young players. Scotty Morrow. They've got some good young players.
Yeah.
Okay. My concern is how much gasoline does Brent Burns have left in the tank?
Mm-hmm.
How much? And if he's watching this, I know he won't be, but I'm a huge fan of the Stahl family, and I'm a real big fan of Jordan. I've known Jordan a long time. He's got 2 years left on his deal after this. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank.
Yeah.
So those are 2 big elements to their team, Jimmy.
And all the free agents they got coming up.
Well, so Nate, you got to think if Natchez isn't better here producing, I don't think they'll sign him. That's just how they do business there. That's fine.
Yep.
Everybody makes organizational decisions. And what about Jordan Martinook? What are they going to do with him? He's an important part of the team. What happens? Like, there's a lot of guys. Pesci, he's hasn't even played yet. What's going to happen to Pesci?
That's where I was going to go. That's a big one.
So I mean, you're right. But my concern is, like, there are 2 guys that have contract time left. and Burns and Stahl. They're important players. I don't know how much gas left in the tank.
Well, we shall see. All right, next question. Eric Landro asks, how do you think Rod is handling and addressing the media? I respect him a lot, but I think Carolina fans are overhearing about how good they've been playing. Pierre, what would you tell the fans if you were Rod Brindamore?
You know the one thing, Eric, that's really important about that? You need to know your room and how your players react to criticism. Some teams, you can whack them. Like Keenan was really good with that with New York and with Chicago and with Philadelphia. He was really good. Scotty was great at it in Detroit, and he was different at it in Pittsburgh compared to what he was in Montreal. So it depends on the character of your team and the types of character traits your leadership has. I personally, with this team, I would talk about the inability to score in a power play.
Yeah.
That would be something. Everything else would stay positive. I would want to talk about power play and how we're going to make it better. I want the players to see it in the press, hear it on TV and radio, and I want them to understand that we're going to work to make it better.
Yeah, 100%.
If you keep it the way it is now, like it's a sleeping giant in the room, and everybody's like they're treading on, you can tell they're afraid to do something.
Yep.
Make them understand you're aware it's not working, and here's what we're going to do to help you to make it better. So that's what I would be talking about.
And I would just say, look, Pierre made a great point there, just going back to the beginning where you said they've got a feel for the room. We're not in that room, so they know better than us, and they know when to call people out or what have you, so to speak. So it's usually, most times, 90% of the time, as Pierre has said many times here, calculated before he gets to the mic and faces us. All right, next question. Jeffrey B. Hey, gentlemen, often we've seen great complementary players to superstars. Kunitz and Dupuis for Crosby, Hyman for McDavid, and Matthews previously. Do you see Trocheck for Panarin in the same light? It's a great question.
What an awesome question.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's so good. I love that, Jeffrey B. That's really good. I'm going to throw in Airy to Lemieux. So Bobby Airy, if you're listening, you owe me.
Bobby Airy. I remember him.
He's my boy, my little pony in Pittsburgh. Love Bobby. What a good player. What a great penalty killer. And he was a dynamic left winger for Mario. I can tell you, he did a lot of heavy lifting. He could play both sides, Bobby, but he was an elite penalty killer too. Let's see. Yeah, I'd say that's a really good comparison. I mean, you can see those guys are having fun playing with each other. Yeah. They got a line. It's a ton of fun to watch. I'm watching that, by the way, Jimmy, last night, and it takes me back to the 2011 World Junior in Buffalo. I'm watching that. I'm saying to myself, okay, maybe the worst meltdown Canada's ever had at the World Junior, and it was because of one line. It was because of one line. Mm-hmm. And two of the guys are actually playing in this series, which is amazing.
Okay.
One of them is Panarin. Yep. The other one is Kuznetsov. And the third member of that line is playing for Florida, Tarasenko.
Oh, wow.
That was the line. And I'm watching that. I'm going, the only guy that wasn't drafted on that line was Panarin.
That's crazy.
And credit to Barry Smith and Chicago Blackhawks. They worked hard, and they got Panarin over. And I know Barry watches the eye test a lot, and he was a big part of that for Chicago. He was like the unseen hand going in and working hard over in Russia to get that done. So, yeah.
I love Barry Smith. You know, like he gets a lot of credit from people in hockey and within the organization, Pierre. But, you know, I got to learn about him through you, through Scotty Bowman, through other people. He deserves so much credit for what went on with Detroit winning and what went on with the Chicago Blackhawks winning.
From 1991 to 2002, nobody won more Stanley Cups as a coach.
There you go.
Nobody did.
Think about that. All right, next question. Mike, do you guys think there's an issue when you get swept out of the playoffs in back-to-back years? I'm talking about the Hurricanes. They can't seem to get the bounces to go their way. No, obviously there's an issue. You don't want it to ever happen again, but I don't see these series being the same as last year. I don't see this going the same way as last year did. I thought last year's sweep was a lot closer than what I'm seeing right now. I just think they're getting outplayed.
I'm going to say something that's probably going to be controversial.
Okay.
I think internally regardless as to however this series pans out, whether they get swept or they come back and win. I think there's got to be a hard question asked by ownership and management. Have we gone too far towards analytics building our team?
Yep.
Have we done that?
I agree.
Because it's the one, and I know the analytics guys are going to go rip me apart. That's fine. Go do it. I don't care. I'm just telling you that they're the one team that is really an analytic-driven team in every part of their approach.
Yep. So
it hasn't worked yet.
Yeah.
It might. I'll see them this. It might work. It hasn't worked yet.
Yeah. They need to find it. I'm with you, Pierre. There needs to be a better combo. Like we've said a million times, we're not against analytics.
No, just have a balance.
Go 100% on one side and none on the other. Like 100% analytics, 0% eye test. You can't do it. You can't. It's been proven time and time again. All right,
Toronto just admitted it in their press conference.
You're absolutely right. There you go.
They just admitted it.
There's nothing wrong with admitting that. They
just admitted it. We got to change our depth players. We got to change certain things. Well, that's what they're going to change.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, what did the Canucks do to stop McDavid? I think they were physical.
They gapped up.
Yeah.
And
they also had good puck possession. They kept the puck away from them, which is huge.
So here's the one thing I'd say. Having drawn up plans for some star players, you got to make sure you can say that at the end of the series. One game's a little early, so you got to be really careful. And
Pierre, how about finding the balance? I always wanted this too. If you're so focused on that one star player, somebody else is going to be open.
Well, you saw it the other night. Hyman ripped one. I mean, so Zach Hyman. I still can't believe he's not a Toronto Maple Leaf, but he's not. So he moves along. But yeah, no, it's a great point, Jimmy. It's a really good point. It's fair. It's really fair what you're saying.
And that's why Edmonton's better than they have been in the past, because they do have those guys that will be open and make you pay. All right, next question. Mike, I remember Pierre always said, never hold grudges in this business. Is that a perfect example of Carolina ownership and the KK offer sheet?
What I really like to say is don't take things personally.
Yeah.
That's more of what I like to say rather than the grudge part. There's always going to be people that are going to have a grudge against you. Sometimes you get their job, and they get mad at you because you got their job and they don't have it anymore. So they're going to be a little angry at you. I get it. Or you're going to say something about somebody. They're going to try to stick it to you at some point. You just try not to take stuff personal. But as far as the KK stuff, they made a mistake.
Yeah.
They can say whatever they want, but they made a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Real Deal Prime question. If I was to ask Mark Bergevin why he really traded Subban, what do you think he would say if he was honest? I don't think it's our place to say that. That's how I'll say that. And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I've heard plenty of things, but that's just speculation.
I think it wouldn't even be Mark. I think you'd have to get that from the internal leadership, Brian Giunta and Carey Price and those people that were there. Unless they have microphones in the dressing room, I don't think they do, or on the planes. I think that's something that the internal leadership of the team would have to talk about, not the GM.
If we're just looking at a hockey point of view there, Pierre, forget all the other stuff. I will say that I think one of the things the Canadians lacked was a thumper, a physical guy, a lot more physical than Subban, and I think they did get that in Weber. So I think just in a hockey standpoint, I'm saying.
You know what's interesting? Both those guys went to the final with their new teams.
I know.
They didn't win either, but they both went to the final.
Yeah.
I
know.
It kind of was a deal that worked out for both teams.
Yep.
Here's one thing that's really important. I've known Shane longer than I've known PK. First time I met Shane was back in early 2000, like it was 2002, I want to say, maybe 2000.
Before the draft?
I used to go and run practices for Mark Habscheid in Kelowna. where Shea played. Duncan Keith was on that team too. They had a lot of really good players in that team. And Mark Habshy is a tremendous coach, just an outstanding coach. That's the first time. But I would say this, what PK Subban did in the city of Montreal for the hospitals and the kids, I know people have a hard time understanding it. It's so important. He did such a good job there. And
he still does.
Yeah, but that'll always be something that the city of Montreal, the people there better appreciate, because it really mattered in the city a lot. And one of my old teammates and a guy that I grew up with, I will not say his name, is a lead surgeon for pediatrics in the city of Montreal. Okay, now you can see he turned out a lot better than me. He's a lead surgeon for pediatrics. I can't even do surgery on a steak, so I'm just telling you, okay? And he just told me one day, we were sitting around, and he just said, this was not that long ago either. He just said, what PK did for the kids in Montreal is unbelievable. And
all right,
that's coming from somebody in the medical community.
Good stuff. Good. I can vouch. I know people up there too. Next question. Alex Evanowski. And I want to say, Alex, by the way, having dinner with my girlfriend last night, she says, that Alex Evanowski guy asked the best questions. So I want to pass that along to you, Alex. Alex asks, has the ability to get shots on goal from the point changed over the past 10 to 15 years? I started watching hockey back in 2008, and I feel like somewhere around the mid-2010s, it got more difficult.
Yes, sir.
Agree?
Because they all started teaching one technique. You used to play body on body, and then people subtly started, because they watched what Jacques Lemaire's teams were doing in New Jersey in particular, and they were winning. And then in Minnesota, and they were competitive. How'd this all happen? And they created a thing called fronting. And so fronting can be done in a lot of different ways. But one of the ways it's really important is, rather than play body on body, you're playing body on stick. And you're forcing the player at the point to shoot the puck through you, not around you, shoot it through you. And a lot of guys get frustrated. So, yes, the answer is it's much more difficult to get pucks through. Yes.
All right, next question. Vika Delmas, I hope I pronounced your name right. Pierre, do you think the Nordiques will return to Quebec one day?
I wish. Jimmy knows. I've been saying it since they left. Some of the best road trips I was ever part of were, going to play in the old Coliseum. I don't think so, but it breaks my heart to say that.
We are holding out hope. We'll never say never.
No, but I'll just say I don't think so, but I hope I'm wrong.
Me too. I'm the same way. All right, next question. Sammy Matei, can you talk a little bit about Phil Housley behind the Rangers bench? I feel like he's not getting enough attention across the league. I know how highly you think of the job him and Pecker have done.
Thank you, Samuel, and I agree. Phil's done a really good job, and here's how you got to look at it. You look at Trouba and the growth in his game. You look at Fox, who's not playing at 100%, and some of the things he's subtly doing defensively that I think are really good. Look at the development of Braden Schneider that I think is just absolutely unbelievable. So there's a lot that's gone on there, and Phil deserves a lot of credit. I know we got a lot of questions. We got to get going. How many we got? Rapid fire?
Let's do it. Rock and roll. Ready? Boom. Chris Blue Shirts. Good afternoon, guys. Everyone loves the handshake line. What is the best and worst thing that you have heard one player or coach tell another player or coach? Keep up the good work. Let's go Rangers. I'll go right to it. 2014 Bruins Canadians. Milan Lucic to Alexei Yemlin said, I'm going to bleep and kill you.
I heard something.
I don't know what the best thing is. Sorry.
I wasn't there, but I know the story. There was a player. This is the worst. A coach told a player on an opposition team in a handshake line, I hope you're dead just like your dad. Ooh. That was not good. That wasn't good. In terms of the best one, I think it was Mike Keenan in Chicago in 92. He hugged Scotty and he said, I want to thank you for all you've done to help me in hockey. Something along those lines. Because Scotty gave Mike his first pro job in Rochester in the American Hockey League.
Okay, I'm going to look this up, and I'll correct myself if I'm wrong on Monday. But I'm pretty sure, Pierre, last week in the handshake line between Dallas and Vegas, Alex Pietrangelo went up to Pete DeBoer and said, go get that cup. And I know that's been done a couple times.
Yeah, that's true.
With guys that haven't
hockey league guys, two Ontario hockey league guys supporting each other. You know, Pete was a player in the league and an owner in the league and a coach in the league, and Alex was a player in the league. And two proud Ontario Hockey League guys. So I like that.
And I remember people telling Ray Bourque that a lot in 2001 as well, when he finally went on to get his cup. Yeah. All right, next question. Randy Workman, who's in net for Boston tonight, Jimmy? Montgomery wouldn't say it. Swayman was first off the ice, so I'm going to say Swayman. But Montgomery said, I know, I'm not telling you. So he's just having fun with us, I think. So I'll say Swayman, but don't hold me to that 100%. All right, next question. Brand new. What advantages are there to sign a prospect to an ELC entry-level contract when they are slated to play next year in Sweden, i.e. Alex Sandin Pellikka? Thanks, guys.
Sandin Pellikka is a tremendous puck-moving defenseman. He's a great puck-moving defenseman and a real good player. Played in Skellefteå. Just getting him under contract, getting him over, getting him involved in your program, just getting him there and speeding up the process, getting him out of entry level. I guess the advantage is more for the player, I guess, than anything else, but he's a good player. I'll be shocked if he's not on their team. You know, I'll be absolutely shocked. He's a really good player.
All right, next question. The Puck Bunnies. I get a bit of a country club vibe from Carolina, which is surprising considering how intense Coach Rod is. Do they need a core shakeup too?
They're going to get one. They're going to get one shakeup anyways because of the way free agency is going to work. They've got 10 guys that are potential unrestricted free agents. So they're going to get a core shakeup.
All right, next question. Sam Lumate, do you think that as the offseason progresses, teams will be calling to ask to speak to Housley and or Pekka from the Rangers? You guys give them praise, but I feel like a lot of people still overlook them.
Well, Buffalo. If I were Buffalo, I'd be all over Michael Pekka. I'd be like, can you come back? We want you back in our program. Yeah. I don't know if that happens because he and Laviolette have a tremendous thing going on. Yeah. They really do in a good way.
They might not be done until late June.
And in terms of Phil, I think, the one thing that doesn't get talked about enough with Phil, when you win an Olympic gold medal, it matters a lot on your resume. And when he did that with his team that he had in 2013 over in Russia, he did a heck of a coaching job. Really, that's hard to do. So people have, I think, had Phil on their radar for a while.
All right, next question. Jason Logan, Pierre, do you still get on the ice and go for a skate and just shoot the puck? We need to put some pads on Murphy. Let's do it, Jay.
Guess what I'm doing tomorrow morning, bright and early. Right. Our summer sessions start tomorrow, so I'm skating tomorrow. It's early. It's not for the faint of heart. And we start down, we get about a 3 or 4 day break when most of the kids have to go to development camps, NHL development camps, and then they come back, and then we finish off the last week of July. So we're actually starting tomorrow morning, bright and early, Jay. So I'm excited.
Rock and roll. All right, next question. Steve Rosen, with everyone saying Toronto doesn't have a proper cap structure, when you look at a team like Carolina where their cap structure isn't working either, what is the ideal cap structure?
Don't spend to the cap. Make sure you have a constant flow of young players coming through your organization. Entry-level contracts matter. That way you can sign some older guys. But the biggest thing in terms of cap management, you have to make the appropriate internal evaluation. A lot of these teams are overpaying players because they make a mistake in terms of over-evaluation. Don't overvalue your players. Be positive, respect the process, but don't overvalue your players. That's where teams get in a lot of trouble.
What did Scotty always tell you?
Never fall in love with your players or racehorses, because all they're ever going to do is cost you money.
There we go. All right. Well, we want to thank everyone in the comments section there. Thanks for the great questions as always. Thanks to our production crew up in Montreal. And thank you to you, Pierre. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.